It's like I have a curious case of case fever.
Get amazing prices on the brands you love at Micro Center. Micro Center has over 30,000 items in stock, including desktops, laptops, computer components, monitors, TVs, and more. Not sure which parts to choose for your next build? Then use Micro Center's custom PC builder to find compatible parts, create your parts list, add them to your cart, and use same-day pickup at one of Micro Center's 25 locations nationwide. And if you're not comfortable building it, one of Micro Center's professional builders can build it for you as fast as same day for a fee. And if you need ideas for a build, then head to Micro Center's Build Showcase for great build inspiration, or submit your build for others to see. To see everything that Micro Center has to offer, click the link in the description below.
We've been reviewing, unboxing, taking a look at, whatever you want to call it, a few different cases lately. It's because it's been a while since we've looked at any chassis. I mean, they're just a big box to put your parts in, but you know, obviously they have a huge effect on your parts. But this is the Phanteks Enthoo Pro 2 Server Edition. Now there's a couple of different Enthoo model cases. There's the Enthoo Pro, Enthoo Pro 2, and the Pro 2 is very much a gaming type of chassis, where it's designed to give you, high airflow, lots of space, dual system capabilities. But this one, I hate the handles. It like fish hook barbs itself up in there, the little handle thingy. But what you're hearing flop around in there, it's the accessory box on the top. So we heard that flopping around. I was a little concerned about shipping. Oh no, it's not a box in a box. Okay, so the foam fits a little loose in there, by the way. So it wobbles around a bit in transit. If ours survived, hopefully yours will. But what I started to say is, the Server Edition is designed to kind of give you a very much server grade component compatibility, but with a tower chassis. So what you're gonna notice as we take a look at the internals on this, it's almost like we took a rack server similar to what we have over there on our server and moved it upright into a tower, which is kind of neat. Now, I know you might be watching this going, I have a server. Why the hell do I care about this? I guess you'd have to ask the people that have home servers. But I know, it's interesting. I feel like it's a risk in that it's gotta be expensive to create the additional tooling for this, but then also know that it's not gonna sell as well as just say their regular Enthoo Pro or Pro 2. Here is the open cell foam, which makes it nice and squishy. I think that's open cell. Is squishy open or closed? Closed sounds like it'd be hard. I guess we'll start at the bottom. So as you can see, here's our little itty bitty baby filter, just for the power supply. Although it comes out the back of the case, so that does make it kind of hard to access. Keep in mind, if you shove it back against a wall or something, that's if you even bother cleaning it. Let's face it, many of us never clean our power supply filters. Big rubber feet, and then we have a fairly decent amount of gap right here, close to an inch, at least 20 millimeters of gap to allow air to make its way to that filter. It's actually not that heavy, surprisingly. There's a fair amount of plastic on this case, but it does It does carry a fair amount of size though, as you can see. But look, no tempered glass side panel, because really this is designed for someone looking at building a home server or just needs a lot of hard drive space. Look, a server, you can operate a server as a desktop too if you wanted to. It just means you have to have a lot of room for your hard drive brackets and stuff. So first and foremost, you can see we've got this guy right here. Now, if I was to go like this, now it's just like a big ass server rack, which is much bigger than would fit in the server usually. But all they've done is kind of take the layout of something like a server rack and laid it upright. Now if I figure out how to get this piece off right here, we'll take a look in a sec, but what I want you to kind of notice is the fact that this is just one big giant open internal layout. There's no bracketry or anything getting in the way. So you could go all the way up to SSI EEB motherboards. Now we're talking server grade, right? Actual server mounts and the whole deal. Now the cool thing is this bracket right here, and we'll take it out in a moment, you can see it has these adjustable built-in GPU supports. Because servers, many of them can have up to 4 graphics cards in them. It depends on what the server's for. Is it a rendering farm, a small rendering farm for doing 3D modeling or something at home? Are you running any sort of like GPU pass-through type stuff for virtualization? There's a lot of different things you can do with this. This would make one hell of a VM machine as well. If you put like a super high core count Xeon or even an Epic CPU or something like that from AMD, you could have like hundreds, if not thousands, of virtual machines running and doing stuff. So it's kind of neat to think about this grade of support has now made its way to the PC/home server grade stuff. All right, moving on, let's see what the back looks like. Because one of the things you have to really think about when it comes to servers, if you have a lot of hard drives, you need to have very easy to work with cable management if you have to deal with replacing cables or power or something to up to 1 million drives that this thing can hold. So if we take a look at the back, we've got 3 2.5-inch SSD trays back here, or sleds back here. Very basic type of cable management. As you can see, we've got our Velcro straps, not even a channel or anything. It's just, there's just straps kind of holding it to one spot. And then obviously we've got the same pop outs right here that you would find on the non-server. The difference is, if we take a look in the accessory box, it should come with a whole bunch of drive sleds for 3.5-inch drives. So here's we'll do it live. So here's the hardware kit that comes with it for all the screws. It looks like we've got 4 3.5-inch drive sleds, which are toolless, by the way. You can see a little release tab right there for getting the drive in there. And then these can all just hook together like this. So you can create like a in and out, double, triple, quadruple, whatever. Oh, that one bent. Fortunately, you can bend it back pretty easily. Yeah, there's our 4x4 of 3.5-inch drives. All right, let's talk about installation and layout. Obviously, this bracket right here is gonna offer us some customization. Where's the screw? Oh, it's back there. So right now, you could attach fans to those and have them blowing directly down on the graphics cards. But you can also relocate it to different positions inside the case to make sure that the cooling is directed where you need it. That's the #1 thing about anything server. Case flow is very important. In fact, in actual server grade stuff, most of the components themselves don't even have fans on them. You rely on the server chassis to direct air through them, where the chassis itself becomes like an entire airflow tunnel, if you will. So this is very similar to that. So here's the fan mounting bracket. And you can relocate this to different parts of the chassis. You can see we have screw holes on the side, one there, so that we could actually mount it like this way in there, so that we can pull air through the drives as well as to blow directly on our graphics cards. Now look at all the different adjustability mounting points you have for this. Because obviously the length of your graphics cards is going to be something to consider here. So if you have really long graphics cards, you could pull it all the way as far forward as technically here, that hole and that hole, where it's going to start to impede a little bit on the graphics cards, or excuse me, the drives, but you should still be able to fit the drives there. Also too, here is our GPU support bracket. So this guy, obviously these are adjustable, so you can slide these up and down so that you can support up to 4 graphics cards to make sure they're not sagging. Obviously, if it's like this, the graphics cards don't really need all that kind of support, even though they have, like all server graphics cards have a bracket at the back that are mounted down to the server so they can't move whatsoever. This at least keeps any sort of sag from happening, but this is also fully removable as well. One thing I also like is the fact that there's this kind of a soft foam surround where the door is, because it's about keeping, if you have a lot of components, a lot of fans, a lot of hard drives, just a lot of things going on in there, being able to help reduce the noise with any foam that you can get in there is going to be a benefit, because 1 drive, 2 drives might not seem like that big of a deal, but once you have like 15 drives, it starts to get a little noisy, especially if you have 4 graphics cards in here as well. But now you can see it is just one big giant open thing. It's a giant open chassis. One thing I think is really awesome is the fact that the Phanteks manuals are some of the best in the industry, in my opinion. They're full color. They highlight and outline the things that they're referring to, so it's really easy to follow this manual. I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with, again, not start, but continue on by taking the front off. Look at that. We have a little flippy door. Now, This was really nice when Phil had it until we realized a lot of our drives and plugs and things and adapters for like SD card readers are fat and they don't fit in there. So I would just prefer to not have the door at all, to be honest, and have it be more flush rather than a recess. Personal gripe, but it was something we realized later was really annoying. Phil ended up having to have like an extension cable to plug anything into there because that was always, the door was always in the way. So, little personal opinion there. This pops off pretty easily. Lots of, hey, it's actually a fabric mesh. Look at that. It's not a metal mesh, it's fabric. And then it does pop off. Like you can pop this out if you wanted to undo all these tabs. I'm not gonna do it right now. So the front has lots of airflow. Here's our dust filter right here, which is magnetic. Tabs at the bottom, magnets at the top. So when you install it, just it goes right in there. And then you can see we can fit up to 4 140 millimeter fans in the front.
Corsair brings gaming to the next level with the Xeneon 45-inch flexible OLED Xeneon Flex display. With up to 240 Hz refresh rate, 0.03 millisecond graded gray response time, motion blur canceling, anti-reflective coating, burn-in protection, and customizable bend based on user's preference, the Xeneon Flex from Corsair allows gamers to truly tailor their display to their liking. Click the link below for more details.
All right, now let's talk about drives, because obviously servers, it's all about the drive. That's what you're serving, is data. And maybe a side of whoop ass if you game on it too. Captain Antonio, I'm gonna open a tub of whoop ass. I don't know. I don't know, okay? It's almost the end of the week, okay? So I've already showed you how you can stack these together, but when it comes to mounting them, they actually mount along this wall right here. I'm a little disappointed, to be honest, that they didn't add a mechanism for mounting it to the floor down here, because it would have been nice if you, so I'm gonna show you, you can run SSDs on these guys, these little plastic covers you have to take off, or you have to choose to eliminate those wherever you wanna mount these, because these are intended to mount along the back wall. So you can do like 2 of them at a time, like that. Now you can technically also mount an SSD in there if you wanted to, but then that obviously takes up the 3.5-inch drive space, right? Because I don't, like a fat 3.5-inch drive is definitely not gonna fit in there. You could probably use long screws and maybe try and go right there with it. You'd have to get sort of creative, but, so you can fit 2, 4, 6, 8 3.5-inch drives right there. I feel like there's some wasted space right here. Like I honestly feel like they should have made a way for these to, yeah, they're just intended to go into those. See how they have like these teardrop type of tabs? That's where those are intended to go. Now they provide you 4 of them. Obviously you can buy more as an accessory kit, but I would have preferred, had they done this, give you the mounting mechanism, because on the other cases, these little tabs right here that they slide in together on, these 4, would also go in the bottom, and then you'd have one like mounted right there. So if you were just running a single card or whatever, you don't need this big old thing. I mean, you could still fit it in there, honestly. You could now utilize these guys, because you can put 2 2.5-inch drives on the covers, and you can retain the covers and have your 3.5-inch drives. So what I mean is, you could mount one here. I think it goes this way. Here. And then on the back side, there's these 4 tabs right here. You can just toollessly mount on the back like that. So technically each one of these little covers is 2 SSDs. So you could fit 8 SSDs using these. It just feels like a lot of space for not a lot of drives, in my opinion. But I guess it depends on how many of these you're using, because you can also mount SSDs to this. So you do have options. Or if you're using the entire 8 3.5-inch drives right there, you can still mount 3 SSDs right here that you could use as like a cache server or a cache array, which is exactly what we do with our server. We use SSDs as a cache, and then we have 10 terabyte Ironwolf drives that we use as our main data storage. So I just feel like there could have been a little bit of improvement there, but I guess we'll see how they take that information. So anyway, taking those out, let's talk about the bracketry, because this is the other cool thing about it, is the fact that this thing is removable and adjustable so that you can make it blow pretty much on any device that you want. Okay, so the middle bracket, as I talked about, I didn't put one of the screws in there, but this is designed to take air, and if you were to mount fans right here, it'd be pulling air through the drives and pushing air through the graphics cards to the back of the case. So it gives you, now is where it tends to really sort of look like a server at that point. Now this bracket is adjustable along these holes. Okay, so you can adjust the bracket just like you can adjust this guy here to have this where you need it. Now let's talk about power supplies. With all this server grade support, obviously it supports ATX power supplies, but they give you this adapter plate that is designed to go from the ATX mount on the case to, I forget what the server size is called, TFX, something like that. Anyway, and then this bracket right here can mount down along this rail. That way you can then have the server PSU, which is just like a brick. It literally looks like a brick, like a long gold bar, if you will. That mounts there. This mounts inside. So you can now have a power supply that's a server grade power supply in here. So that's kind of nice to see. But it's funny because I started thinking about this. I'm like, you know who else would probably love a chassis like this? Water coolers. Because you could have, although yes, you could have an external, top rad here and a front rad there. One, even if you took out this middle bracket, the amount of open space you have inside of it is nuts. And let's face it, when it comes to water cooling and creativity, the bigger the open space, the better. Now, Phanteks might be right now mashing on their keyboard. Yeah, the Enthoo Pro 2 can also do that. But the Enthoo Pro 2 doesn't give us this bracket, which I think is kind of unique and interesting because I think it'd be neat to move this bracket forward and literally have like a radiator and then our cooling stuff right here, like whether it be a big tower res or something like that. And then this bracket moved forward and another radiator on one side, and then our fans, and then maybe a scoop that's designed to take that air and funnel it right to the top for just air exhaust. Now you might be going, but the internal radiator is going to heat up just don't start with me. We've already had this conversation a million times. I'm not going to keep arguing with your lack of knowledge. When it comes to this, it would be a neat idea and it would work. In fact, Corsair's, the Obsidian 900D had this exact kind of setup where it had an internal rad and it worked fine. It worked perfectly fine. So water cooling wise, this would be pretty cool in my opinion. But past that, it's just a square box that does fit server grade components. But I think you could get creative with this and come up with all sorts of stuff. And they do have a tempered glass side panel version based on the manual. This happens to just be the regular side panel that has obviously all the vents right here for airflow. So you don't have to use the bracket where it's at, like I already showed. They had it utilizing pulling air in from the front of the chassis. See, everyone has moved to the method of pulling air through here, but they were like, hey, if this is about utility and less about form, let's just put fans on here, blow air directly down on the components. So you got fresh air coming in for that, fresh air coming in for there. Yeah, obviously fresh air is the theme. I wish I had an air freshener ad to segue to, but I don't. Although for someone that farts as much as I do, I should have my own air freshener. We need to end this video because I am really going off the rails on this one. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Would you use this for a server? Are you running a home server? What kind of case are you using for your server, and would you use it for water cooling? All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.